Welcome to Coffee and Contemplation with Susan Dunlop. Hello, I am Susan Dunlop, a self-leadership coach and 3 Vital Questions facilitator living in Noosa, Australia. If this is the first time you've joined me, welcome. And if you've been tuned in before, thank you for coming back. Join us as we explore the intriguing stories and life lessons of individuals passionate about making a difference in the world. My guests are leaders, believers and creators, each deeply committed to their unique missions. We uncover the what, how and why behind their remarkable journeys and have the honour of discovering the stories that shape lives and transform perspectives. Today's guest is Sonja Renee from Atlanta, Georgia. Sonja Renee is a speaker and an author of Abandonment is Not Your Fault, Abandonment to Abundance. I know that Sonja Renee enjoys helping others transform their lives, and that's all I'm going to share instead of a long bio, because Sonja's story will be giving us her backstory as we move through this. So welcome, Sonja Renee.
Thank you for having me, Susan.
Yeah, it's been lovely getting to meet you over our prep chat and fumbling our way into technology this morning.
Right. Very intriguing.
We always learn every day. I would love to just start at the beginning. So how about you guide it, if you like, if we can share your personal journey and take us from there.
Awesome. I am Sonja Renee, and I'm a speaker and author, and I speak about the invisible wound that leaves us emotionally hurt, which is abandonment trauma. And through awareness and guidance and personal development, I guide people to bounce back to live an amazing life. When I was 49 years old, which was a few years ago, I found out that I was adopted by accident. Big on the word accident. And so, of course, that caused me to take a deep dive into getting some answers, because you know what? I'm owed some answers. Somebody needs to tell me what's going on. And my mom, she passed away when I was younger, so she wasn't around for me to get the answers. My dad, he really was in shock that I even found out. So he wasn't even ready to answer the questions because he was still trying to hold on to the lie, because now for him, it's like, wait a minute. Now she knows she's not my biological daughter. So he wasn't really ready to answer any questions that I had at the time. So I reached out to her auntie. She wasn't ready to answer, which is my mother's sister. She was deflecting just like my father was. So I was like, okay, I'm almost 50 years old. I'm not upset. I'm not angry. I'm a little disappointed that nobody felt that they could tell me the truth. But I just want to know what happened. I want to know the details surrounding this story. What is the story, right? So I took a deep dive and I started to reach out to some other family members. And one of my mother's close friends, I asked her, I said, is my father my real father? And she said, no, he's not. Now, one thing about my mother's friends, her friend circle, they don't run and tell her business. But if you ask the question, they'll give you the honest answer. So she says, no, he's not your father. I said, I knew it. Because over the years, I was like, he treats me so differently than his other children. I don't look like any of them. Like, I can look completely different. They all 3 look alike. They look like my father or a mixture of their mother. I don't look like them. Now, my father and my mother were married first. They adopted me. Then my mother carried my brother full term. She had 5 miscarriages. That's why she adopted me. And you know how it is when you have a baby, you end up carrying another baby full term, right?
Yeah.
And then my parents split up when I was 5, divorced when I was 10. My father remarried, and he has 2 children from his second marriage. And as I'm looking at them, they have his hands, his eyes, his nose, his skin color, his freckles. I don't have any of it. Even my sister, she has her mother's characteristic traits as well. And so he will always, say, oh, you look like your mom's side of the family, because on my mom's side who raised me, I do have their complexion. I do favor them in the way we wear our hair short, how he's stylish. So he was able to throw me off the trail, right? But I still feel that I found out when I was supposed to. Everything happens when it's supposed to. And because learning this truth caused me to take a deep dive and getting more answers. And as I was getting more answers and disconnecting from my adopted side of the family, because when I found out, not one person reached out to me to say, hey, are you okay?
Oh, really?
We heard what happened. Are you okay? Are your children okay? I have 3 children that this is affecting as well. Now, one person reached out and I said, wow, I've been the big sister. I've showed up for them. I've been involved in their lives, but it was just never really reciprocated. We keep extending the olive branch and it keeps getting rejected. It's like, okay, at some what point do you stop? And so this was, I feel like a tower moment that I needed to disconnect from them. And it made it easier. This situation made it easier. And so then getting to know my birth family, my mother wasn't ready. You know, the chit chat for a couple months, but she was closed off. She was still secretive. She wasn't giving me any information. And I just said, you know what? I said, I don't think you're ready. And if you're not, it's okay. You know, she says, well, maybe I'm not. Because I don't know. Once again, she's going to have to revisit this trauma. I don't know what pain is causing her. I don't know what happened in that moment of time with her. So for her to have held it in for 50 years and then now she has to deal with it, I don't know what that's like.
No.
And I don't get to tell someone how to process their pain. I don't get to tell someone how to heal or how long it should take them to heal, right? So I gave her that grace to do that as I got to know the rest of my family. I have two sisters with my birth mother. With my birth father, I'm the only child. He never had any other children. And so imagine he's excited to have a daughter and a great grandson, right?
Can I just ask you, was your birth mother and birth father close by in location? Did they actually see you living a life as a child or as you grew up?
All lived in close proximity to each other.
Oh, wow.
Literally a car ride. A short car ride. And it's crazy because my father said that when they adopted me, my father and I did eventually have the conversation. We'll get to that. But he said, I said, did you guys know who my real birth parents were? He said, no, because they adopted me from an adoption agency. You know, there's usually a disconnect. So they had no idea because I was always wondering if maybe my birth mother and my adopted mother's family was actually family because my birth grandmother and my adopted grandmother are both from the same state in Virginia.
Oh.
And when you put their pictures up side by side, they look very much alike, like
Gosh.
they could be kinfolk. So I was like, did they keep me in the family? You know, I just had a whole bunch of questions, right? But what really happened was in that moment, I started to feel like I was abandoned twice by the same person, which is my mother, because I'm getting to know everybody else. It's amazing. It's all good. But she's not a part of the process. And so she's the main component for me anyway. And so I was like, you know what? I realized I needed to do some healing work. And I remember getting a strong download and God said, write a book on abandonment. And I said, I don't know anything about abandonment. I don't have abandonment issues. So I don't know anything about that. God said, yes, you do. I said, no, I don't. Could you imagine going back and forth with God?
Having a fight with God, off you go.
Right. I'm like, no, I don't. What are you talking about? And so I said, because see, I only associated abandonment wounds with being needy and clingy, and I'm neither one. Right? So I said, okay, well, if you want me to write this book, you're going to have to tell me what to write. When I started writing, Susan, when I tell you, I started getting all these downloads of times that I was left behind, times where I was emotionally neglected. I didn't get the affection that I needed. I didn't get the nurturing that I needed because I was raised on survival by baby boomers.
Oh, yes.
And it was, it's all about survival. I'm a Gen X generation. So I'm a latchkey kid. We practically raised ourselves. It was like, go out there, live in the world and figure it out. Right. And so when you come home, it's all about survival. And I know they loved me because I was well provided for, but that's the way they showed their love was through provision. It wasn't through affection.
Yeah, not presence.
So,
yeah.
Exactly. And so you would think, well, I guess this is what love is. And then you grow up and you adopt these other type of relationships with friends and other family members, and then intimate if you get married. There's still this detachment because of how you were raised. But see, I've always been an affectionate person probably because I didn't get it. Right? So when I had my children, I'm over affectionate. I'm like, they're like, Mom, I'm the super affectionate mom. So, but I learned to have balance with that. I did train my children to be on survival. You got to know how to survive in this world. But I also love on them very much because I listen to them and I allow them to come to me with anything and everything because I tell them the street is not going to sugarcoat anything and they don't have any love for you, but I do. I'm going to be honest with you. I'll give you the ugly truth before I give you the beautiful lie. But I'm also here to help you navigate through that process.
Yeah.
And I think it's been very instrumental because I have a great relationship with all of my children. And then me writing this book and learning some of the wounds that I did have, because there's a plethora of wounds under the umbrella of abandonment trauma. Okay? So learning some of the wounds that I did have, I was able to realize the types of relationships that I was in that created these wounds.
As you said, it's like 49 when you first came to discover it, and you're not coming at it from an angry place. You're coming at it almost like from that knowing that there was something. You've shown that you could see there was a difference and you could feel it, but you've come to it from quite a mature perspective.
Exactly. Even meeting my birth family, I went into it with the attitude of, I don't know if I'm going to be accepted or rejected, but at least I'll know my roots. I'll know where I come from. If nothing else, it's for health concerns, and I'm so grateful because when I found my birth family, my daughter was pregnant with my grandson. And I almost died having her. She almost died. We both almost died in childbirth because I had low platelets that I didn't know should be monitored. But it was also hereditary from my father's side of the family because my aunt has it. Her daughter has it. So when my platelets dropped, my blood pressure shot up. I lost 1,400 cc's of blood. I hemorrhaged. The umbilical cord was choking her. So they had to do an emergency C-section. I almost didn't wake up. When I woke up, the doctor was sitting by my bedside, rubbing my arm, just praying for me to wake up because that's how long I was out. So when they came to, she said, why didn't you tell me you had high blood pressure and low platelets? I said, I didn't know because I never had an issue. I go to my doctor's visits one time like I'm supposed to. It was never an issue.
Yeah.
So I was able to share with my daughter, have them keep an eye on your platelets. And when they did, they noticed her platelets were low. But they were able to monitor it so that my grandson could come out healthy.
So important to know our health background, isn't it?
Super important.
Yeah.
Super important.
Yeah.
Things that run in on my father's side of the family, stuff I never even heard of, like sarcoidosis. My aunt has it. I was like, what is that? I never even heard of it before.
Okay.
However, but these are things that you need to know. So fast forward, I write the book. It was very therapeutic for me, but in writing the book, I started doing a lot of healing. I started to detach from people. I started to really assess my relationships, past and present, to see how these relationships really benefit in my life. Am I holding on to people and relationships that really are unhealthy for me? They're getting something that they want out of it, but I'm not really getting what I want or what I need. And so I started stepping back and releasing attachments to a lot of family, adopted, and a couple birth family members I had to step away from too.
Interesting. Can we go slow through this part? Because I think this is a part where people get so confused when they start to realise there's that shifting needed, the boundary setting. And it sounds to me like you went deeper into this and you're not sounding like you're feeling guilty about it, where I think a lot of people would feel guilty about what you're just talking about.
I don't. And I think the reason why is because, like I said, when you do an assessment and you start to kind of weigh the scales. One thing my mother told me when I was younger about people, she said, get a piece of paper, draw a line in the middle, put good and bad, good on the left, bad on the right, and make a list of all the good things about that person and make a list of all the bad things about that person. If the good outweighs the bad and you feel it's a relationship that you really value and you want to keep, no problem, keep it. But if the bad outweighs the good, you need to keep it moving. And so when I did that assessment, that's what I did. I started looking at some of these relationships and I started looking at how certain relationships kind of sabotaged me. And I didn't realize it was you sabotaging me, you interfering with something that could have been good, but you made it bad because you interfered with your negativity or your negative words or your lies or your deceit. So when I started paying attention to all of that, I was like, I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to stay connected to somebody else, somebody like that that's going to be that negative of an impact in my life, because I know where I want to go in my life. Now being an author and I'm a speaker and I'm sharing my story and I'm helping people get healed and they're getting delivered and they're freeing themselves from unhealthy attachments. They're freeing themselves from toxic relationships and in dangerous environments and they're getting their power back and they're living in their truth. I have such a bigger mission. I had to turn my pain into passion. And so I don't want, these people aren't supposed to go with me. They were only supposed to get the unhealed version of me. They weren't supposed to be a part of the healed version of me because we're no longer see eye to eye. See, when we saw eye to eye and we were connected, we were cellmates. We were the same cell together because we were doing the same things. We were saying the same things. We were engaging in similar things. But when I started doing the healing work and I started to raise my vibration, I'm meditating more, I'm praying more, I'm releasing things more, I'm enjoying my solitude, I'm enjoying, going places, different places that I've never been before, trying new things, getting to more in tune with who Sonja is. I have no connection with them anymore. And the more that I expanded my mind on new things, once the mind expands, it can't conform back. So now I'm here and they're here. And I can't come down here. I have to stay here because once you see something, you can't unsee it, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So I need them to come here. But if they're willing to stay in that low vibration and they're not willing to meet me up here, then now we have this big gap and our communication is off. We're speaking two different languages.
Yeah. Do you find that there's a pull back? Is there a pull from them for you to come back down to that level? Or do you find there's hurt involved from their side, your side? Just the emotions around that.
It's so interesting that you asked that, Susan, because I am an empath. I have a very powerful intuition. I'm clairaudient, I'm clairsentient. And I have visions, right? Those people, some of those people, not all, but some of those people have been trying to manifest me back into their lives energetically. And I have visions that they're trying to do that. And so I was able to block it. The guys showed me what they were trying to do. Or they'll go on my social media page and they start liking my videos and saving my videos to their favorite or commenting. You haven't said anything to me since cat was kitten and man was on the moon. Now all of a sudden you liking my stuff and you commenting and one thing about stories on Instagram and Facebook, somebody can see your post and you can't tell who's looking at your post. But if they look at your stories, you can see who looked at your stories. So now I'm starting to see I can see who's looking at my stories. So now I see that you're watching me. And then I have a vision of you in my dream. You're saying or doing something specific in the dream, but I know that's you trying to attach yourself back to me because you miss my energy. See, I was the energy that you were feeding off of so that you can feel important because I'm always giving and pouring into people's lives. See, one of my abandonment wounds was the overgiver because I'm a giver by nature, but I was giving without boundaries. I was just overgiving. I wasn't saying, oh, no, I'm not doing that anymore. When I started to put boundaries on my giving, it also caused me to see the true nature of people because when I stopped calling you first, so I'm not giving to you the way I did before, now you have no need of me anymore. You disappear, you're going to move on with your life and you think your life is so much better without me in it. Okay.
Wow.
Good luck with that.
We've got abandonment in the roots of my family, which is not about what we're going to talk about today, but I can definitely, some of that's resonating with me. And the dreams, goodness me, those nights of dreams.
Because I truly believe that that's when the divine is trying to tell you things. That's when your mind is most calm. It shuts down. It's quiet. You can see more clearer and you can see what's really going on. You may not always understand or be able to interpret the dream. But if it's someone in your dream that you no longer have been in communication with for months or years and they're popping up, they're trying to call you back. And see, the thing is, their guilt is preventing them from reaching out to you. So they want me to reach out to them first because that's what they were used to. They were used to me reaching out, calling, just, hey, I didn't want nothing, just calling to see how you doing. They were used to that. But now that I'm not doing it anymore, and then they're watching and seeing my life is blossoming. I'm booked and busy with my speaking engagements. I'm an actor as well. I've been on set in a couple of productions already. I'll be in 2 movies this month. So they're watching that. They're seeing what I'm posting and they're watching it. And I'm like, wait a minute. She's actually doing what she always said she wanted to do.
What's with that?
How can I get back in? Yeah. How can I get back in and be a part of it? You can't. You were never supposed to go with me. And see, here's the thing. And audiences, pay attention to this really clearly. If you're looking at your life and it's not where you want to be, and you're just not progressing. And every time you try something, it's just not working. Pay attention to the circle around you. Stop telling people everything that you want to do or going to do, because you don't know what people are saying behind your back. And so when you go and be quiet and just do, and people start falling off because they think, oh, she don't have nothing going on. But what happens is when those people start falling off on their own, the opportunities come. Saying energy vampires, really, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And some people will do whatever they can to cipher your energy because they want to be you so bad. And they don't even realize if you just focus on yourself and be yourself, you would be so amazed with how amazing you can be.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
So how about we go on to the definition of abandonment trauma and what are the common signs that someone may be struggling with?
Abandonment trauma is a deep-seated emotional distress stemming from experiences where a person felt left out, discarded, rejected. These experiences might range from parental neglect in childhood to emotional and physical abandonments in relationships. So it's really based around neglect and a person feeling like they didn't get something that they needed. And when you grow up with this, you start to feel like you're not important. You don't feel like you have value. You don't feel heard. People are talking, but nobody's listening. You just don't see how you fit in the world. You see children, sometimes teenagers, feel like an outcast. They don't fit in, with the crowd, and they just don't know why. And a lot of it comes from them being neglected in the home, some way, physically, emotionally. Maybe they were shut down. They were never able to voice their opinion of it. I know in my generation, child staying in a child's place. You seen and not heard. I'll tell you when you have feelings. So you go off, you're in your room crying. I'm crying and I don't know how to deal with these emotions because I'm a child, but I'm left to deal with these emotions that I have no idea what to do with. And so what happens is you just suppress it. And then as it keeps happening, over the years, it just compounds one on top of the other, and it's never dealt with. So then you become a full-blown adult and you get in relationships with other people and you're triggered and you don't know why, because you don't know the wound that was actually created from the relationship that you were in that caused you to be triggered. And so what happens is you just keep going from relationship to relationship triggered until you take the time to find out what the wound is. So you have to think about what was said. What did this person say to you that caused you to be triggered? And according to what that person said, that can help you identify what type of wound it was. Then when you identify the wound, you can go back to your childhood and say, did this happen to me when I was a child? And then you can start to recollect who did this to me or what happened. And then when you remember that moment, now you can see what relationship it was that harnessed that wound. So now as an adult, you can say, okay, I'm not going to be in relationships like that anymore. But also now I'm going to soothe the little girl in me or the little boy in me to remind them, you know what, big sis is here. You don't ever have to worry about being in a relationship like that anymore, because now you can put boundaries on people and you can say no, and no is a whole complete sentence. Okay? Because what happens is if you don't do that work, and we'll talk about shadow work, when you don't do that work, some things that people do is revert to isolation. They self-sabotage many of their relationships for fear of rejection, but you got to do the work. And that mirror work is there's a you that you like and a you that you don't like, right? We glorify the us that we like, right? But the us that we don't like, our bad habits, the things that we say and do that's negative, the mistakes that we've made that we didn't try to rectify or learn from, those bad habits, and then the triggers, the wounds that we have. We have to sit and deal with those things, because if we don't deal with it, as I said a few minutes ago, and how to do that, identifying the wound and the type of relationship it was in so that you can heal that part of you, then guess what? You're going to keep attracting the same people with the same type of wounds, because trauma attracts trauma.
Quite exhausting, really.
It is, because, you see people say, oh, I keep getting in the same relationship. Different guy, looks different, but it's the same spirit. It's the wound.
Yes,
it's the trauma wound.
So intriguing, isn't it? So you think about that. If it can be something as simple as what you said, like our Gen X era was, children should be seen and not heard, or not speak until you're spoken to. That would mean to me there'd be a hell of a lot of people with abandonment wounds.
Exactly. You're afraid to be intimate. You're afraid to open up because of fear of rejection, or fear that someone is going to use what you tell them about you against you to hurt you. So I've met quite a few men that way today. I mean, in their 40s and 50s they're closed off. They're emotionally
Yeah.
unavailable, which is
Yeah.
another one, And guess what? I was emotionally unavailable and I didn't know it because I'm like, why am I keep attracting these guys that don't open up? And then one day it hit me. It's like, okay, but you didn't really tell them everything either. So
Yeah, the part where you
you
didn't open
might
up.
be closed off too. And I was like, what I had to equate it to what I went through with my father not really being there for me as far as like heart wise. He was a police officer. He was in Vietnam, so he was like, he protect your body, but he didn't protect my heart. Then I have a brother who I was constantly fighting all the time. He was jealous of me, because I was the good child. And then was married to someone who was manipulative and bipolar and narcissistic. So, all of those things that I was attached to, it caused me not to want to open up because I saw when I was vulnerable, you used it. Once you break my trust, I don't trust you again. It's very hard for me. And I tried it in my marriage. I tried to trust again, but I couldn't 100% because there was always that part of me in the back of my mind that remind me that what you're capable of doing to
Yes.
hurt me.
Yeah.
And so I think once the trust was broken in the marriage, even though we stayed together, I didn't give him all of me because I didn't feel I could trust him with it. And so after the divorce, I still carried that energy because even though I healed from some things from the divorce, I still carried that energy and I didn't know it because you don't give people too much too soon. But there is a point in the relationship when you should start sharing, right? But I was never really getting to that point.
So what was it that showed you that part of you that you're saying when you suddenly realised that in a way it's like we get abandoned, but then we turn it on ourselves and abandon ourselves, or we're at risk of abandoning our children and a beautiful relationship we could have? Do you find there's that space where you needed to work through that so you could come out the way you have with your own children?
It's funny because I didn't have that issue towards my children because my parents didn't communicate with me about a lot of things. Like, our generation, we had to learn a lot on our own. But with my children, I wanted to be open with them. I wanted them open door policy. Come to me, talk to me about everything. I desired to have the relationship with them that I didn't have with my parents. I wanted something completely different with my children. I'm not being your best friend. I'm not your friend. I'm your mother. But I wanted it to be a type of relationship where they felt comfortable that they could just sit and have a conversation with me about anything. I wanted it to be better. You should always want to have better. I wanted it to be better. And it is. It is. I was never one of the parents to say, you don't get to talk and tell me what's going on. And then you wouldn't know what's going on with your child.
So luckily for your own family, you've modelled what you wanted the relationship to be from early on. Do you find in the people you work with in this abandonment space that people haven't got that way of being, that they do abandon generationally forward?
Yeah, I've had my kids' friends come to me like their mom or auntie because they're not getting it from their parents. Yeah, I'm the auntie.
Okay.
I'm a lot of people's auntie. I'm a lot of people's auntie.
That's nice. I think you'd be a lovely auntie.
I'm the rich auntie. I'm the rich auntie. I'm the real auntie. I'm the loving auntie. I'm the informative auntie. Like, I'm the auntie of a lot of young ladies and young men, even who's been adults, married with children and divorced. I'm still the auntie that they come to for advice because they know they're going to get the truth from me. They know that I'm going to be honest with them no matter what. They know I'm going to support them in whatever endeavors that they have. And I know some of the traumatic relationships that some of them have with their mothers and how difficult it is for them that they can't even have a conversation without it turning into a WWF SmackDown wrestling match.
Wow.
So they look to me as that safe haven. And it's okay because you
Yeah.
know what? Blood is not thicker than water. I don't know who came up with that nonsense, but that's not true. We all come in this world to be connected to our own soul tribe. And your soul tribe is who you vibe with. I always say your vibe attracts your tribe. And so it's all about your soul tribe. It's not about your blood. Because I have, even in my birth family, my birth father and I, we were in connection for a couple of years, but we had fallout. And then we reconnected when my grandson came. And then we had another fallout again because you're not being honest and you're saying things behind my back. My aunt was coming back and telling me everything. So, but I was already seeing it, but I was like, I'm not going to tolerate this behavior from you just to have a relationship with you. It's not like I don't have a dad. Okay. I got a dad. Okay. Who raised me. But I'm giving you the opportunity to get to know your only child and you playing with me. And I'm not here for it because I'm doing too much healing work that I don't have to have this relationship with you. This is not going to make or break me because I've lived
No,
50
no.
years without you anyway. So this is not going to make or break me. My dad's 80 years old. I found out about the adoption in 2019. We hadn't spoke until a couple months ago.
Oh, wow. That's
Exactly.
a few
He was
years.
texting me, happy birthday, happy Mother's Day. He's checking the temperature because he thought I was mad at him. And one thing about my dad, he could never handle me being mad at him. He would call my mom like, "Is she still mad? Like, is the air clear?" Like, he literally could never handle me being mad at him because I could stay mad for 2 or 3 weeks and I speak to you. I walk past you, and I didn't see you. That's how I was. I've grown
Yeah.
from that. I've grown from that. But he thought I was mad at him, and I reached out to him because I'm writing my second book. And I had some questions. I want to put my journey over these past couple of years of healing and everything that I've gone through in the past couple of years. I want to put that in the book. It's in production right now. And so I had some questions and I need his answers. And he's the only one that can give them to me. And this time he told me what happened, which was not a bad thing. My mother had 5 miscarriages, which is a bad thing. They wanted a child. She wanted a daughter. They adopted me a 1-month-old. That was that. He said, "I don't regret it. You're my daughter. I love you. I don't regret it." I never thought that you did regret it. I just wanted to know what happened. So that was the simple process. Then the conversation took a turn and we were able to start having a conversation about who mistreated me because I kept saying I was treated differently. He was like, "Well, who treated you differently? What happened?" So I started running down a whole list of stuff that has happened since I was a child, teenage, adulthood with his parents, siblings, some family members from my mom's side of the family. And he sat and listened. This was the first time in all my 53 years of living that my father actually sat and listened to everything I had to say. And when I was done, his response was, "All I can say is I apologize because I was so unaware that you felt this way and these things went on." He said, "Your brother called me about a week ago with some of the same issues." He said, "I know this is
Oh,
God because," he said, "I don't know how much time I got left on this earth." I said, "Yeah, you got more years behind you than you do in front of you." I said, "And the last thing you want is to transition and children have an issue with you." He said he felt like this was God's way of helping him get into a better place with his children. And I said, "I don't know what my brother's gripes were. We didn't go into that. That's none of my business. That's between my father and him. But my thing is this, if 2 of us coming to you,
yeah, it
it's a
was meant to be.
reality that you need to pay attention to." But this was the first time he ever listened until I was completely done.
And from what I've found, if there's been those types of hard conversations to have within the family over, things that have happened in the past, we're listening in a different way a lot of the time, and it's not what you're saying. Like, your father listened to you and sat there and let you say all your words out, rather than trying to find the band-aid that's needed in there to go, "Oh, let's fix it now. Okay, can we stop this conversation?" And I think that's what derails families that aren't used to communicating well. You don't get through a full
That's
conversation.
true. And we have to have these hard conversations. I have them with my children. Sometimes they get a little sticky, but I share with them, listen, we
Yeah.
have to have these hard conversations in order for us to have clarity and understanding so that we can get to a place of agreement. I don't have to govern them the way I did when they were younger. And I have to respect
No.
their boundaries. They have to respect mine. I have to let them fly like birds and live their life and do their thing while I'm doing mine. So there's some, and listen,
Yeah.
motherhood is not a switch we turn on and off. We know that. So there's going to be times that I have to
No.
catch myself and, oh, well, wait, oh, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Or they be like, Mom, you doing too much. And that's what the kids say, you doing too much. I'm like, okay, you want to have those
Yeah,
moments.
yeah. I know. Was it the communication thing is like, it all comes down to the tone, Mum. You think,
Yeah, yeah.
oops.
I'm not coming at you. You know my voice. You know how I sound. It's the same me all the time. So stop it. But yeah,
Yeah.
when they're adults, it's different, and it's harder for us because we've been mothering for so long. My oldest, she
Oh,
turned
yeah.
33 years old today. I've been mothering for 33 years, so it's not turn the switch
Yes.
off and do it this way and scale it back. It's a process.
We were raised by amateur parents. Like, there was no professional parenting body back there somewhere that said, this is how you do it really well. So it's just like that cascading effect from the 1800s, really, from great grandparents were in the 1800s when we were in the Gen X era. You think, gosh, we've been trying to find our way forward in life from such old
Yeah,
ways.
yeah.
It's pretty amazing that we have been able to step forward, and you are. So you've stepped forward with complete vulnerability in your book. You're saying you're
I
writing a
am.
second
Yeah,
book?
I am. So this is volume 2.
Okay.
Still kind of going back and forth with what I want to call this book because it's kind of a volume 2 to the first book, Abandonment is Not Your Fault. So I was going to do Abandonment is Not Your Fault volume 2, but I'm not sure if I want to title it that. I'm thinking I'm going to title it something else because this book is going to be a guide to identifying the specific wounds and taking control of your life back. So it's going to be a different type of book where the first book was talking about the types of relationships that I was in that created these wounds. The second book is going to be talking about the different types of wounds that there are under the umbrella of abandonment trauma that are connected to the specific type of relationships that you're in so you can identify if this is the relationship you're in, this may be the type of wounds that you have. But then it's going to give you some key points of how to heal that wound. And then also in the book, you'll be able to write down what your takeaway was from each chapter because everybody's situation is different, right? And then you'll also have a section where you can journal your journey because I want people to see the transformation. I want you to see where you started. And then when you start doing the healing work, you start the awareness and identifying these wounds and then doing the work and then to see where you are, how you transform. For me, it's all about the transformation. It's all about the outcome.
Where are you speaking next?
I will be speaking at the Women's Empowerment Town Hall Forum out here in McDonough, Georgia on the 23rd of March. I'll be on the panel with some judges and some lawyers and some other authors and speakers as we will be sharing our story, but also sharing how we knock down obstacles to get to where we are today and how we are affecting our community. So it's going to be an amazing event. I'll be doing a book signings there, so
Oh, wow.
I'm excited about that. So I have some people traveling for that event, so it's going to be really nice.
Oh, lovely. So what else can we cover before we wrap up? Is there anything particular that you would like to share from the inside
Yeah,
out?
I've learned that, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and they want to know what's in it for me. WIIFM, what's in it for me? And I'm truly invested in others'
Yeah.
transformation. I found that, how a person treats you says everything about them and nothing about you. And it's not your job to take on the accountability of other people's behaviors. It's not your job to fix people that you didn't break and problems that you didn't create. And we find, especially as children, when we see our parents go through certain things, we just love unconditionally and we want to fix it. But we don't have the mental capacity, we don't have the resources, we don't even have the strength to fix an adult problem. And so we grow up sometimes with these insecurities and these inferiorities that, oh, I should have did this or I could have did that. Like when my mom died, I racked my brain of what I thought I could have did to prevent it. No, it was going to happen when it was going to happen. There was nothing I could do to prevent it. But, we hold on to these things. And so how a person treats you is their choice. At the end of the day, as an adult, they had a choice to treat you the way they did. Now it's up to you to decide how you're going to deal with it because it's not what you called, it's what you answer to. What are you going to do? How are you going to handle it? Because how are you going to be better than this? How are you going to be better than that parent? How are you going to be a better parent to your children? How are you going to be a better person? How are you going to release the attachments? How are you going to live your best life? How are you going to do the things that you love to do? Learn about yourself, what you like, what you don't like, where you want to go, where you don't want to go, what you want to engage in, the type of people you don't want to be around, the type of people you do want to be around. What are you going to do to step
Yeah.
into the true ownership of who you are, living in your power, living in your purpose, living in your truth, unapologetically? Because, Susan, you don't have to be great to start. You just have to start to become
No.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, you had a lot in there that I was just actually going off into little worlds all for myself there. Thank you for that. And maybe it is because it's 7:30 in the morning here in Australia. You may have fueled my day with different thoughts. I find it interesting just in that space there. What came into my mind was you said that excuse for how we operated maybe as parents of young children in that space back then. But when we become the parent of the child who was hurt back then, we can step up as an adult and be the adult working with that person at that level. And it'd be lovely to see more of that the parents aren't feeling so much stuck in the guilt and the shame of whatever their feeling was back there, and to be able to step forward and say, you know what, actually I want to have a conversation with you and I want to be part of the healing of this family's wound. So that'd be a beautiful thing to see, I think. Yeah. And that's just got to start. So all it's got to be is one conversation that's got to be started. So,
Yeah.
well, Sonja Renee, I want to thank you. It's been a heartfelt conversation and I've learned a lot. And I think it's a kind of topic that so many have got an inner knowing. When you have those moments when you have a learning about something as big as that and you can sit with it and it's been with you all along. I think that's such a beautiful transition to walk through. There's pain in it that will come, I think, afterwards, the hurts and a few tears that may have to be released from that young child that was there. But I think, yeah, people will go away from this episode today, maybe contemplating it in terms of their own lives. I will share the links for where your book is available and where to find you online.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me, Susan. I really appreciate it, especially with our crazy time difference. Wow.
And I think it's really good that it's audio so that I don't have to look so fresh in the morning, just saying. So it's really good.
Thank you.
So listeners, what was one key takeaway you got from this conversation today? My thought is listen first and ask second. Something that I teach in my own work. So if we can start to listen more without the intention of fixing, shutting down, it's amazing where that conversation may go. We don't know what's going on for other people either. And that compassion for ourselves that we all need to feel a little bit more, and self-love, it'd be really good to just turn that around and have some compassion for the people that went before us. It doesn't mean you need to have them pulled back into your lives, but if you can understand them a little bit more, I think that can leave your heart feeling a little bit more gentle and move on with your own lives, as what Sonja Renee is saying about her life. I am forever thankful for my beautiful guests for allowing me to understand them more and to share their stories. Trust that you are blessed, even when you forget that you are blessed. Take care of yourself. I look forward to being back soon, and bye for now.